Welcome back to Bookkast, where we bring you bestsellers in minutes. And today we're diving deep into Freida McFadden's The Crash. This thriller had me glued to the pages, and I can't wait to unpack it with you.
It's a fantastic choice, especially if you're looking for a book that keeps you guessing until the very last page. McFadden has a knack for creating characters that are both relatable and deeply flawed, which makes for a truly compelling read.
Absolutely. And The Crash doesn't shy away from exploring some pretty dark themes, like manipulation, desperation, and the lengths people will go to get what they want.
Right from the start, McFadden throws us into a pressure cooker of a situation. With Tegan, our main character, 8 months pregnant, facing financial struggle, and dealing with the sudden reappearance of the baby's father, Simon, who she can't even remember sleeping with.
Yeah, it's a lot to process, even before we get to the truly unsettling stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of unsettling, that contract Simon offers Tegan is a huge red flag.
Right.
Financial security in exchange for complete silence. That screams, something's fishy to me.
It definitely sets off alarm bells, and what's fascinating is how McFadden uses this contract to highlight the theme of bodily autonomy. Tegan, despite her vulnerable situation, refuses to be controlled. She rejects Simon's offer, even though it means facing an uncertain future.
Which makes her repressed memory of Simon assaulting her even more impactful. Suddenly, the contract isn't just about money, it's about silencing a victim.
Exactly. And the fact that Jackson, the lawyer, doesn't believe her adds another layer of complexity to the situation. It makes you wonder, how often are women in similar situations dismissed or not believed?
It's a chilling thought, and it sets the stage for Tegan's growing distrust of everyone around her. I mean, wouldn't you be paranoid after being gaslighted and then facing a blizzard while 8 months pregnant?
Absolutely. The blizzard itself becomes a symbol of Tegan's isolation and vulnerability. Then, of course, she crashes her car. You think, okay, things can't possibly get worse. And then, bam! Enter Hank, the mysterious stranger who pulls her from the wreckage.
I have to admit, Hank's introduction had me on edge. He's described as this imposing figure, and I immediately thought, is he friend or foe? McFadden does a brilliant job of playing with our expectations.
Right. We've just seen Tegan escape one dangerous situation with Simon, and now she's potentially in another. It's like she's trapped in a cycle of manipulation and danger.
And then we meet Hank's wife, Polly. At first glance, she seems kind and caring, a total contrast to the menacing Hank. But there's something off about her insistence on keeping Tegan isolated and drugged.
That's where the story takes a fascinating turn. We start to see parallels between Polly and Simon. Both are willing to manipulate and control others to achieve their desires, even if those desires seem, on the surface, to be coming from a good place.
You're right. It's like McFadden is holding up a mirror to societal expectations, especially when it comes to motherhood. Simon wants to control the narrative to protect his reputation, and Polly is consumed by her longing for a child.
And the way McFadden jumps back and forth between Tegan's perspective and Polly's is brilliant. We get to see both sides of the coin. The fear and desperation, which makes the story even more gripping.
Definitely. We see Tegan trying to figure out who to trust, while Polly is spiraling deeper into her obsession with having a baby.
And just when you think you have Polly figured out, another layer is added with the introduction of Sadie, her young neighbor. It's clear that Polly cares for Sadie, but there's also this underlying sense of control in their relationship.
It makes you wonder if Sadie is a reflection of what Tegan might have become if she had stayed with Polly, trapped, manipulated, and ultimately powerless.
Exactly. And this is just the beginning. The tension continues to escalate as Tegan's distrust of Polly grows, and she starts to suspect that the care Polly is providing is anything but.
And the best part, we're only scratching the surface. Stay tuned, because we're just getting started with our deep dive into The Crash. We'll be back in a flash with more twists and turns, only on Bookkast, where we bring you bestsellers in minutes. Welcome back to Bookkast. Last time we left Tegan trapped in Polly's basement, drugged and suspicious of her seemingly kind captor. It's like jumping from the frying pan into the fire. Remember, she just escaped Simon's manipulative contract, and now she's facing a whole new level of danger.
And it's this constant escalation of threats that makes The Crash so compelling. McFadden doesn't give the reader, or in this case the listener, any time to breathe. Just when you think Tegan might catch a break, things get even worse.
Exactly. And one of the things that struck me about this section of the book is how McFadden uses the setting of the basement to heighten the tension. It's dark, isolated, and filled with medical equipment, which creates this unsettling atmosphere of both care and captivity.
It's almost like a twisted inversion of the safe haven a hospital should be. Instead of healing, Tegan is being controlled and manipulated under the guise of medical attention. And Polly's insistence on keeping her drugged is particularly disturbing.
Yeah, it reminded me of those true crime stories where seemingly ordinary people turn out to be capable of horrifying acts. You start to question everything Polly does and wonder what's truly going on behind that seemingly kind facade.
Right. And McFadden throws in these subtle hints that make you question Polly's sanity. We learn about her history of miscarriages and her desperate longing for a child. It makes you wonder if her desire for a baby has warped her sense of right and wrong.
Which brings us to that shocking scene where Polly contemplates breaking Tegan's other ankle to prevent her from escaping. I mean, talk about chilling. That's when I realized how far gone Polly was.
It's a pivotal moment in the story, and it speaks to the larger theme of obsession. Polly's desire for a child has become all-consuming, to the point where she's willing to inflict serious harm on another person to achieve her goal.
And it's not just physical harm. There's also the psychological manipulation that's happening. Polly constantly undermines Tegan's confidence, telling her she's incapable of taking care of her baby.
Absolutely. It's a classic tactic of abusers, to break down their victims' self-esteem and make them dependent. And what's interesting is that McFadden doesn't shy away from exploring the complexities of Polly's character. We see glimpses of her vulnerability, her own past traumas, which makes her actions even more tragic.
Yeah, you almost feel sorry for her at times. Especially when you consider the societal pressure on women to become mothers. But then she does something truly horrifying, and you're snapped back to reality.
Exactly. It's like McFadden is saying, look, I'm not condoning Polly's actions, but I want you to understand the complex factors that might have led her to this point. And this nuance is what makes the story so thought-provoking.
Right. It's not just a black and white, good versus evil situation. It's a much more nuanced exploration of human behavior and the dark side of desire.
And just when you think the story is going to focus solely on Tegan and Polly's twisted dynamic, McFadden throws in another curveball. Remember Jackson, the lawyer who initially dismissed Tegan's claims about Simon.
Oh, yeah. He practically told her to sign the contract and shut up. Not exactly someone I would call a hero.
Well, it turns out Jackson has a conscience after all. He comes back into the picture, not only to apologize to Tegan, but also to reveal some crucial information about Simon. He's been doing some digging, and discovers that Simon has a pattern of drugging and assaulting women.
Hold on. So the guy who seemed like a slimy lawyer trying to protect a rich client turns out to be the one with a moral compass. That's a twist I didn't see coming.
It is, and it's a reminder that appearances can be deceiving. Sometimes the people we think are the villains are actually the ones trying to do the right thing, while those who appear harmless can be hiding dark secrets.
This whole time we were focused on the immediate danger Tegan was facing with Polly. But McFadden cleverly weaves in this larger thread about Simon's predatory behavior.
It adds a whole new layer of complexity to the story and raises the stakes even higher. Now it's not just about Tegan escaping from Polly. It's about exposing Simon and preventing him from hurting other women.
And remember, Tegan's car crash wasn't an accident. Someone tampered with her brakes. At first I assumed it was Simon trying to silence her, but then things get even more twisted.
Right. We learned that it wasn't Simon, but Tegan's own brother Dennis, who sabotaged her car. He was desperate for money and thought that causing Tegan harm would force Simon to pay up to avoid a scandal.
Wait, what? Her own brother tried to kill her. Talk about a shocking revelation. I mean, we knew Dennis was struggling with his own demons after the accident that left him with a limp, but I never expected him to go that far.
It's a testament to McFadden's ability to create characters that are both relatable and capable of shocking acts. Dennis isn't some mustache-twirling villain. He's a flawed individual driven to desperation by his circumstances.
It makes you think about the ripple effects of trauma and how it can warp people's perceptions and decision-making.
Absolutely, and this revelation throws a whole new light on the story. We realize that the danger to Tegan isn't just coming from strangers, or even those she might suspect, but from someone she trusts, someone she's connected to by blood.
It's a chilling reminder that betrayal can come from the most unexpected places, and it sets the stage for an even more intense final act as the truth about Dennis's actions comes to light.
And just as we think we've reached peak chaos, the story takes another unexpected turn. With Dennis's true intentions revealed, the focus shifts back to Polly and Tegan. And it's in this final confrontation that we see both characters in a completely new light.
That's what I love about McFadden's writing. She constantly subverts expectations.
Yeah.
And forces us to reevaluate our judgments of the characters.
Exactly, and it's this unpredictability that keeps us hooked until the very last page. So stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll unravel the shocking climax of the crash and explore its thought-provoking themes, only on Bookkast, Bestsellers in Minutes.
Welcome back to Bookkast, where we break down bestsellers in minutes. We left off with a bombshell. Tegan's own brother Dennis was the one who tampered with her brakes, hoping to cash in on Simon's dirty secret. Talk about family drama taken to a whole new level.
Yeah, it's a chilling reminder that sometimes the people closest to us can be the most dangerous. And for Tegan, who's already been through so much, this betrayal is devastating.
But the danger isn't over yet. Remember, Polly is still on her way to the hospital, armed with that morphine syringe. She's convinced that she's the only one who can truly love and care for Tegan's baby.
It's this unshakable belief, this delusion, that makes Polly so terrifying. She's not some evil mastermind. She's a woman driven to extremes by her desperate longing for a child.
Which makes what happens next even more shocking. As Polly enters Tegan's hospital room, she sees Dennis about to inject Tegan with the morphine. And in a truly unexpected twist, Polly stops him.
It's a powerful moment of redemption for Polly. Despite her own twisted motives, she can't stand by and watch someone else harm Tegan.
So the woman who was moments away from killing Tegan ends up saving her life. Talk about a complex character. It's like McFadden is showing us that even in the darkest of hearts, there's still a flicker of humanity.
Exactly. And it raises the question, are people inherently good or bad? Or is it our circumstances, our choices, that determine who we become?
It's a question that the crash leaves us grappling with long after we finish the book. And as the truth about Dennis's actions comes out, we see the devastating consequences of his choices. He's arrested, and his dreams of a better future are shattered.
It's a reminder that our actions have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for those around us. And in Dennis's case, his desperation and resentment led him down a path of destruction.
In the aftermath of the chaos, we see Tegan starting to rebuild her life. She has her baby girl, and Jackson, the lawyer who initially doubted her, becomes a supportive friend.
It's a hopeful ending for Tegan, who has endured so much. She's finally free from the manipulations of Simon, the threats of Polly, and the betrayal of her brother.
And even Polly finds a kind of peace. She and Hank adopt Sadie, offering her a stable home after the death of her father. It's a bittersweet resolution, tinged with the weight of Polly's past actions.
The Crash is ultimately a story about survival, resilience, and the complexities of human nature. It's a thriller that keeps you on the edge of your seat, but it also forces you to confront uncomfortable truths about the choices we make, when driven by desperation, desire, and the need for control.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? What stayed with you after finishing The Crash? Was it the chilling realization that danger can lurk closer than we think? Or the unexpected acts of heroism from the most unlikely sources?
For me, it was the exploration of motherhood and the intense pressure society places on women to fulfill that role. Both Polly and Tegan, in their own ways, are victims of this pressure.
It's a powerful message that resonates long after the final page is turned. And if you haven't already, I highly recommend diving into The Crash yourself. You won't be disappointed.
Just be prepared for some sleepless nights.
That's Freida McFadden's The Crash, in a nutshell. A twisted, suspenseful, and ultimately thought-provoking thriller. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the dark side of desire.
And remember, bestsellers in minutes, only on Bookkast.